Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Vijay Vaitheeswaran, correspondent for The Economist magazine and author of a forthcoming book on the future of innovation called Need, Speed, and Greed, available at good bookstores near you. And it's my tremendous pleasure today to have with us Tony Melone, who is known to all of you, I'm sure, in the audience and on the web. He's Executive Vice President and Chief Technology Officer at Verizon Communications. And it's going to help set us up for a stimulating discussion on how we can look to the future of innovation and looking at the network as an essential enabler of that quite possibly brilliant future, but certainly disruptive future. Exciting times, Tony. Tell me, when you look at the 5-year horizon and you look at the possibilities that you see with networks, what gets you out of bed in the morning?
Yeah, well, clearly the first thing that comes to mind is wireless, and I think that's probably not a surprise to everyone in this room. Most connections to the internet today are wireless, and that will continue. And when you look at the horizon and you look at the technology that's available, obviously for us LTE, and we believe for the industry it will be LTE. Even at the infancy stages today, we're seeing great promise, and we know how technology evolves. So we look ahead 5 years, and we're extremely excited about the capabilities of a connected world, and which is what we are today, but connected in a wireless way to be able to do the things that, you know, every day more and more of what you can have only done in the past in a wired connection is moving to wireless. That clearly excites us. And beyond that, the amount of information that will be available to us as people, to machines, and then leveraging, finding a way, and this is where some innovation needs to happen, finding a way to leverage all that information. It's one thing to have it, but leveraging it in a...
Well, big data is both a blessing and a curse, isn't it? We're certainly living in the age where big data has made its presence known, but it's quite possible we might, our filters, our ability to make sense of this, turn it into information, ultimately to useful, practical wisdom. Yeah, we're nowhere near that. Do you have any sense of whether this digital disruption we're living through, are we going to be able to keep pace? And what are you hearing from your customer base, which is one of your strongest assets, in terms of the complexity that's been introduced into their lives?
Yeah, Vijay, I think that's the challenge that people like ourselves and all the technology companies and service providers is take this complexity that we're introducing, that technology is introducing, and customers want that masked from them. They want that incredible complexity, incredible capabilities to be simplified. And when I think of innovation, and I think of innovation for a company like Verizon, the sweet spot for us is finding a way to take all of this technology and find a way to simplify it for our end user customers. And I think you've seen examples of where some of us have done it well. I think you've seen examples of some of our OEMs, and Apple, obviously a clear one, has done a great job at being able to simplify things for their users.
So you're clearly in the walled garden part of the argument, as opposed to a little bit wilder and woollier experimental world of, say, Android and Google.
Yeah, you know, walled garden has different connotations how it's used. I think I am not in a walled garden environment when it comes to not leveraging the openness and the innovation that's available, but I think when you speak of walled garden in a controlled fashion in terms of controlling the user experience, in control in a positive way, I am in that camp. I think that's what consumers want. You know, obviously there's no one pattern for all consumers, and Google tends to provide more choice, and for some people that's the type of innovation, that's the type of interaction they enjoy. Apple's on a little different track on their model, and others might be in the middle. And I think they all work, but if I were to place a bet on what consumers want, I think the simplicity piece will rule the day.
A lot of what you said suggests you think quite a lot about the service that you offer. At heart, are you a technology company or a services company? And I'm coming at this from the point of view of perhaps 80% of US GDP now comes from services. It's a rich area for future growth and harnessing productivity increases. But at the same time, you know, are you a tech company?
Yeah. Vijay, I would say that we're a services company that wants to be more of a technology company. That's where we are today. And I think we want to be a technology company for the sake of, partly because it's cool these days to be a technology company, and we all want to feel like we're in the middle and relevant. But I think in reality, more so because being a technology company or being more of a technology company allows us to understand what the implications are of the things that are happening around us. The innovations that are coming from companies like Juniper, like Google, like Apple, and other people we deal with, how to best leverage that. We do a much better job when we have our own sense of technology and how it can be utilized. And you know what? Maybe we'll push some of those partners through our technology and through our innovation as well. And possibly we'll have some breakthrough innovations of our own that can support our customers.
What are you doing in-house as you think about how you can be more innovative to tap into some of the trends towards open, networked models of innovation?
A great example of that is with LTE. Just by way of background for the audience, when we decided to launch LTE, first thing we had to do was get spectrum. We purchased spectrum, and that spectrum had an open requirement to it when we purchased it, and we chose to go that route because, quite frankly, we thought that's the marketplace. That's how we wanted to operate. That's how we would have to operate. So when we did that, we decided we'd create this LTE Innovation Center in Massachusetts, and really what we thought was that we needed an incubator, a place where hardware companies can come that have their own ideas and want to leverage LTE and that technology and what that technology can bring. So we've had hundreds of companies come through there. You know, they own their IP. We just facilitate it. We give them space. We give them a network that's protected from interference, and we give them our engineers to answer questions. And our suppliers help as well in answering questions. And that has spawned, I forget the number, but there's, I think, 10 to 15 products that have already come out of that commercialized.
And again, in an age of exponential technologies and indeed a convergence of a number of those technologies happening within the planning horizon, there are sure to be disruptive threats even to your own business model. How do you watch the horizon for disruptive threats? How do you either co-opt them, build them yourself, or what's your plan for thinking about that?
Yeah, so that's a good question and a tough question to answer. It's not a tough question to answer, but it's probably tougher to feel comfortable that we're getting it right. I think scanning the landscape and having people outside our business getting that information into our business and being open to that is critical. We all have blinders. We've all have our experiences, and I think we have some very bright people in our business who understand technology, but clearly we understand technology from the perspective that we've grown up in, and I think it's very easy to miss the implications just looking at it from a different perspective. So we rely on companies that we deal with to help us with that. And also, I think a key is to be very critical of ourselves internally and test our assumptions over and over again. And then the last piece of that is accept reality and accept the fact when disruptive technology will in fact impact our business and not be in denial of that and react quickly. And I think there's examples with all companies of where they've done it well and where they've...
Give me an example from your own company.
Yeah, from our company, I see at a big level, our move to wireless was a great example of how we've taken disruptive technology and we leveraged it and we allowed ourselves to sort of cannibalize our own business. And we were speaking earlier, maybe we were fortunate that our wireless venture was a joint venture with Vodafone because the ownership structure basically didn't give us a choice. If that were not the case, would we have done it a little differently? I hope not. think not, but you know, you don't know. But that was a great
history
example.
would suggest that you would have done it differently.
You know, history is
it's rare that
it's rare that people are comfortable doing that. But I think there's so much evidence, as you said, with history to show that if you don't, you will end up in a bad place. And I think that's very important.
And also in terms of keeping your eyes on the horizon and not just listening to sort of internal projections. Tell me a little bit about what you've learned from FiOS, which was, I'm a FiOS user, it's great, but in fact, you did get some of the projections wrong on what the competitors could do with that.
You know, I think FiOS, first of all, from a technology standpoint, it's hard to look back and say it hasn't delivered on any of its promises. It's a great technology, and it's served us well in terms of capabilities. You know, to be critical, looking back, I would say that where we probably didn't do as good a job as anticipating what our competitors and the competitors' technology, how that would evolve, and the implications of their evolution, and the differentiation and the technological advantage that FiOS may or may not bring. I think it's hard to argue that we don't have an advantage, but is the advantage as significant as we originally thought, and therefore the implications in the market penetration? I'd look back and say we probably should have been more critical of our own assumptions of what the competitors might do.
That, in a sense, gets to this question of how do you make sure, especially at your level, to hear other voices, to pick up on the bleeding edge. I was recently talking with Jeff Immelt, and his way of doing things, he explained to me, was he set up a venture capital fund a couple of years ago, not so much to make a lot of money, but just to get a deal flow of fresh ideas that his own researchers and senior management wouldn't give him, just to have visibility above his own reporting structure. What is an analog in your company? How do you make sure that you're not baffled by the BS being peddled by your own underlings?
Yeah, interestingly, same, very similar approach. We with the LTE Innovation Center, at the same time, we started a 4G venture fund, which was a seed to provide seed capital for those companies that came in and wanted to use the Innovation Center. Should they need support, we had a 4G venture fund to do that. But then, in addition to that, internally, we have a fund, and again, it's the same thing. It's not a lot of money, and it's not meant to be a financial windfall, but more strategic to seed companies that are doing work in areas that we think would be interesting to us, would be beneficial to us. And so very similar approach there. And then the other piece is just the basics of being open to outside information. And you know, it's easy to say that, it's easy to bring it in, but it's also very easy when it comes in to dismiss it much more quickly than you should. And the hard part is recognizing that. And try to surround myself with people that can call BS on me, on ourselves, and the more we do that, I think the more likely we're going to identify those disruptive technologies quicker.
Okay. I'm just giving an early warning. I'm going to turn to the audience in just a moment for questions. So if you can start collecting your thoughts. We do have 3 microphone runners that'll come, and please do wait until they come to you and I recognize you, because we are recording this, of course. So while you think about your questions, let me ask you something else. I'm going to have Anish Chopra on the stage a little bit later today, of course, a CTO for the White House, and we'll talk about the role of government. But one question that I wanted to put to you in advance of that, as you look to the future of the network, what role do you think government needs to play? And I'm coming at this where, having, of course, working for The Economist, spent many years in Europe, where there is a strong view that the government role in getting GSM off the ground gave Europe an early advantage, and that view is still stoutly held in many corners in Brussels and London. I'm curious to know, as you think about the right role in the US context for the government.